What's up, basketball world? Welcome to another episode of Spittin Hoops, our weekly, but more than weekly this week, basketball podcast talking about stuff going around in the NBA. Yeah. Play-in edition. We're also going to talk about our playoff predictions. We're going to go through the bracket. There might be some homerism, and there also might be some takes, roasting players we don't like. You're going to have to deal with it and let us know how you feel about it. So, yeah. Anthony, how are you feeling about the plans? How are you feeling about the Celtics? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, man. Yeah, this is going to be a spicy podcast. Feelings might get hurt, insults might get thrown. We don't know where this is going to go, but wherever it does go, we're here for it.
Yeah, we might have to put on the gloves and just fight like virtually. Like it might be crazy. Download UFC or something. Like we're it's gonna be nuts. So first off, today we're recording this on a Friday. You guys should be seeing this either Friday night or Saturday morning. So for context, the playing games are gonna happen today. It's the T-Wolves versus the Thunder, which I got completely wrong on the last podcast. You got right. And then it's going to be the Bulls against the Heat, and which we both got wrong.
So
Yeah, so wrong. The game was in progress on the last podcast, and we were like, oh, okay, the Raptors are going to win. They're up 10. They did not. So yeah, they did not. So we're gonna go through that just for context later. But I don't think that really affects our playoff predictions, which is why we're doing them now. So that's just a little something. Let's just cover the games though. Raptors, Bulls. Obviously, the Bulls pulled it out. Anthony, do you want to take the floor on this one?
yeah, definitely very, very interesting game here. The first thing for me is just the free throws was crazy. Free throw disparity went absolutely crazy. You go 18 of 36 from the free throw line. That's the game right there. Anunoby 3 of 8, Scotty Barnes 4 of 7, Pascal Siakam 5 of 11. It just can't happen. You can't do that. You had the whole game there. You lose by 4. You miss 18 free throws. What do you think is going to happen? It's not much else to say. Zach LaVine went off in the second half, which was pretty cool to see. I don't really have too many other takeaways from this. I know people have mixed feelings about Derozan. Apparently, whatever she was doing, it was working because they really missed so many free throws. Like, how do you miss that many free throws? You can't just be some 9-year-old girl screeching at you that makes you miss all
Okay,
those free throws.
you're right. Like they should have hit the free throws, but dude, that was horrible. Like it was very annoying to hear on the telecast. It's just like every time there was a free throw, first of all, you knew they were gonna miss, which was like, okay, this is predictable now. This is great. But then also you just hear her screeching. I'm like, okay, all right, we got it. I get it.
Yeah,
I got the point. I don't know. But the Raptors, embarrassing performance. They were up 13, I think, going into the fourth, something like that. First half, they looked pretty good defensively. They're switching. And then the fourth quarter, it's just really like it just told the story of their whole season. They couldn't really create on offense. A lot of non-shooters on the court, Scotty Barnes and just like inconsistency from Siakam. Van Fleet didn't look happy as per usual this season. I don't know. It was credit to the Bulls, right? Of course, they played great, but it was like also just a bad performance from the Raptors, and I'm not gonna lie, but going into the season, I thought they were gonna be like a top 3, top 4 seed, and it's just not gone that way at all. This is about as bad of a season they could have imagined to have. Bulls, it's been pretty bad too, but they're about to be in a second playing game. They might be in the playoffs next week, and at that point they can't be mad, right? So it is what it is.
yeah, most definitely. I think disappointing seasons for both teams. Raptors a little bit differently in that they were hoping that this young talent was going to mesh in a specific way. On paper, it did look like they could kind of pop off. I think on paper, people were looking at the Bulls and thinking, we don't really see what the path going forward is here. Yeah, you're going to win some regular season games, which they kind of did. They did beat good teams. They could have great nights. The problem is when you have your ceiling with a few B plus level players, it's just not going to go very far. So both of them have disappointing seasons. I think the one thing for the Raptors is fortunately they have some youth on their side, so they can kind of help free up, I think, some of the decisions that they're going to make. And they can always be like, okay, we can see what's going to happen in another season, and we can always make midseason trades. I don't know if the Bulls have as much flexibility in that regard, but I also don't know the Bulls like free agency and their draft pick situation.
Yeah, I think the thing about the Raptors is like this was kind of their season of running it back. Like the year before didn't go super well either, and Scotty Barnes, like this was year two of Scotty Barnes, and he didn't get better, you know. So that's kind of my concern there with the Raptors and their future. The thing is, like the Bulls and the Raptors aren't super comparable. Like you're saying, the Raptors have a lot more youth. The Bulls are bringing in guys like Pat Bev to do like immediate impact stuff because they don't have Lonzo, you know, the kind of different situations. Bulls a lot more win now, and which is, you know, not great, but they looked good, and Pat Bev, people roast him, looked good. Him and Caruso in the backcourt was fine when Derozan and Levine are scoring like that. Thought it was pretty impressive performance. I might pick them over the Heat. We'll see.
Any playing game with Patrick Beverley, you kind of have to assume that there's like a 10-point more likely chance that they win that game because he's undefeated at the moment, right?
Yeah, he's like the playing MVP of all time. It's crazy.
He's one of the goats.
Wait, you know what? I saw a crazy thing. I think Valanciunas has played in every play-in game ever, or like every play-ins ever.
Yeah. I saw that. He's like the leader in points and rebounds or something.
Yeah, all-time playing. But honestly, it's like pretty fitting. Like no flame to Valanciunas, but like makes sense. Like
yeah, you have to be in that zone where you're not good enough to like be in the upper echelon, but you're pretty good.
yeah, like him and Vucevic are like perfect play-in centers. Like it right. Makes sense. Okay. Moving on. OKC, obviously, they get the win. I'm totally blanking out on who they played.
They played the Pelicans.
Oh, the Pelicans. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. BI, great game. Don't have the stats in front of me, unfortunately, but BI had a great game. But it was really like Shea and Giddey combined for some like 60 points. Giddey just looked fantastic, to be honest, offensively. And then Lou Dort, like if you're gonna get a 3-point performance like that from Lou Dort, it's kind of like, I don't know, you're probably gonna lose, to be honest. Especially when the Pelicans defense is just not great. Like they're not holding a team under 110 points, right? So if Lou Dort scores 25, you're probably losing. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I think it was so cool. Shea had a really poor first half shooting wise and then turned it up in the second half. I think he had 25 points in the second half. This was a pretty back and forth game. I will be honest, I only watched live the first half. So it's like pretty close at that time. Lou Dort played amazing, and he has become a relatively reliable 3-point shooter. If he's open and he has the time to kind of set himself and shoot, he was 4 of 8. He put up 27. Giddey had 31. Shea had 32, like you said. So they all went crazy. Jalen Williams didn't have a great game, but he was plus 20. He had the highest plus minus of anybody on the floor for the Thunder.
That's what he does. He's such an impact player on the court, to be honest. So like that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, he's awesome. And as for the Pelicans, I don't think this really sucks as much as like the situation for whoever's going to lose those playing games in the East, because they do have Zion. Obviously, very worried about what is going to happen there with him, because he just unfortunately doesn't seem like he can be healthy at the right times or mentally healthy, as it's seeming like he's been talking about. It was interesting. I wonder what you thought about that. Like Brandon Ingram, late 3 and 1 that could have tied it, and he hit the 3, and it like kind of was a foul. I don't know. Could have gone either way.
It's just like a ref's not going to call the foul in that situation unless it's like super evident. But on the back of seeing the Mike Conley call, the AD Mike Conley call, I kind of expected there to be a call, but I don't know. It is
the Siakam like 3-point attempt.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not tripping too hard. I think in general, I feel like refs tend to not call things on the last play. Like that's just kind of that's what they tend to do. I think you kind of have to know that going in, but it's just like it obviously sucks. Like it was probably a foul on Ingram specifically, but like, you know, I can't like chalk up the game to that, you know.
Yeah, so, no, definitely.
That's how I feel about it. But Thunder Wolves, that's gonna happen tonight. Anthony, you have a prediction that we're probably gonna get wrong?
Yeah, I sure hope we don't. I feel like I feel like the Wolves are a more talented team on paper, but I kind of like what the Thunder are doing right now. I just feel like they're rolling. I feel like they're kind of playing with some house money, and they got all the confidence in the world. I think their guys are really clicking at the right time. Again, Jalen Williams had a terrible shooting game, so he can get that going. I have a lot of trust in Shea, and I have a lot of trust in what Giddey and Dort have been doing. So I feel like they can go into Minnesota and pull it off. I feel like the Timberwolves are in a tough spot right now mentally. So I'm gonna give it to the Thunder, and I'm also gonna say I think the Thunder have a great, like, they just have a great ceiling at the moment too, which is cool to see. So it'll be great for them. I'm assuming they make it into the playoffs and then probably gonna get first rounded, but like that experience is gonna be super helpful for them going forward.
I absolutely agree. I think they have like 15 first round picks in the next 5 years, something ridiculous. It's like 2 this year, 4 next year, 4 the year after, something like that. It's like a little ridiculous. Side note, would love to see them offer like Chet like and 10 first for Wemby. Like that's the most fun. Like that's the most fun storyline that could happen. But totally agree. Super fun team. I'm actually gonna go ahead and like pick them against the Wolves. I just think Rudy Gobert being back, it's an extra body. I still think it might be a negative due to spacing, to be honest. That's kind of my overarching take with the Towns Gobert combo, to be honest. And I think the vibes are great. Like that Thunder team is young, they're energetic, and it's really just a vibes team. I also don't know who's guarding Shea, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
I think Ant though is definitely going to have a bounce back game. To be fair, like he's just not going to be as bad as he was in the previous game. But he almost looked a little hurt, which does scare me.
Yeah.
So we'll see about that. But so I think the Thunder are going to beat the Wolves. And then I think that the Heat will probably beat the Bulls. To be honest, I just don't see the Heat having 2 straight games like that. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I thought that the Bulls watch us both be so wrong about both these outcomes.
Yeah, no, we're gonna be wrong.
Yeah. You're welcome, Chicago and Minnesota, you Midwestern scum. You're yeah, I do think the Heat are gonna pull this one out. I struggle to see them playing this badly and do or die scenarios like 2 games in a row. I just don't see it. I feel like Jimmy had a bad game, but I don't think he's gonna go back to back on that.
Totally agree. So we're gonna move on because we're definitely gonna be wrong about both of those predictions, to be honest. But like let's get into the first round matchups. I think we should. So for a little agenda for y'all, we're just gonna go through the playoff first round matchups right now. And then we'll go through our brackets from there. Anthony, I think we should start just with the 1 seeds to get those out of the way.
Sure.
Just because their matchups haven't been like decided yet. Nuggets versus either the Wolves or the Thunder. Think it's Nuggets in 5, probably both ways. I think it's the Nuggets are in control of that series, and then they probably just go cold 1 game on the road. But I could also see it being a sweep pretty easily.
I'm with you. I think that it's probably going to be in 5 as well. I think that the Thunder, if they make it, can give them fits in 1 game for sure. I think they'll give them fits in a lot of the games. I think the games will be tougher if they do play the Thunder, but I'd be very, very surprised to see them lose in the first round. I think Jokic is too good, and almost in a weird way, I feel like all the narrative for Embiid and Giannis gaining steam has kind of put him on a back burner, as if like he's not still an amazing player that is deserving of the MVP, and just his ability to impact the game offensively is damn near second to none. Obviously, you have plenty of arguments for other guys like Curry and guys who can just generate offense like crazy and KD, but I don't know. He's going to be the best player on the court by a mile, even though Shea's amazing. So yeah.
Totally agree. And I also think, I mean, I picked Embiid, right, as MVP. So like I'm there with Embiid. But in the playoffs, Jokic consistently raises his level from whatever regular season he's just played. If you go through his playoff stats, it's like very fascinating, to be honest. And really in the playoffs where the game slows down, defense matters a little bit more. I think Jokic just eats in that environment. I'm actually with the Nuggets in general, and I'll get to them later, but most of my concerns of them have nothing to do with Jokic. It has a little bit to do with him defensively, but I do think he can hold his own in the playoffs. But we'll see, I guess. Both of us have the Nuggets in 5 there. We'll delve deeper into the future series of the Nuggets later. Bucks against the the winner of Heat versus Chicago. I think if it's the Heat, it's five maybe, and then if it's the Bulls, it's probably five as well. I know five is a little bit of a cop out answer, but like see both of them stealing one game, and that's it.
Yeah. I'm pretty close. I think it's also going to be a short series. I think Bucks beat whoever. I think if the Heat, I'd rather the Heat win because I think they're just going to rough them up. The Heat do have a history of giving the Bucks fits. So I mean, if the Bucks just roll over the Heat and are just like whatever, we don't even care anymore. That's going to be a sign that they've like mentally just completely moved on beyond that franchise. And at this point, they don't even consider them a thorn in their side. I do think that they'll push it to 6, kind of like tough, cheeky, annoying 6. But I don't think they're going to be any trouble with that. I think when the Bulls played the Bucks last year, and it didn't really go too well for them. I think they stole one game. So. And that was with Chris Middleton hurt, so I think it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm a little surprised you think that Heat Bucks would go 6. I tend to be. I think it's closer to a sweep on both ends. I'm just pretty worried about the Heat defensively, especially against a team like the Bucks, who they have sneaky a lot of guys who can put up 10, 15 points. And sure, Giannis is the one putting up 30 usually, and sometimes it's Drew, but they just have a bunch of dudes who can score 10 to 15. And I kind of question the Heat ability to stop that. But there will be a game where the Heat force everyone else to beat them and they don't.
Right.
So I think Heat in 5 for me, Heat in 6 for you, whatever. And then I think it'd probably be a sweep against Chicago.
Sure. Yeah. If they swept them, I would not be surprised in the slightest.
We'll see. That'll be my prediction. Okay, so now that we got those out of the way, here's the nitty gritty. Anthony, let's start in the East. We'll give you the floor with your Boston Celtics against the Atlanta Hawks. Fun series, obviously. Off the rip, I tend to think that the Hawks are a pretty easy matchup for the Celtics. But how are you feeling?
I feel great. I feel really, really good. I think that every team, maybe not the Warriors because you guys are used to just kind of dominating, but I've become pretty used to a team giving the Celtics frustrations, being like, oh my gosh, guys, just figure it out. I think this is going to go 4-5. I think it's honestly one of the better hopes that the Celtics could have had going into these playoffs. Because it's just going to be a great way for us to get into the first round, feel that playoff atmosphere, have tough challenges from really, really great players. Like the Hawks are a good team. There's no doubt about it. So I just think it's going to be a fantastic first round where we get tested. We do have some struggles like within games. I think maybe it goes 5. And if it's like a 1-1 series or something, if they like steal game 2 or something like that, or like game 3, and we're like, oh, okay, is this going to be a series? And kind of have like lock down, like lock in for it. I think that'll be really helpful for when we play against who I believe will be Philly. What do you think?
I think the Celtics are going to sweep them, to be honest. So like I don't have too much analysis outside of like I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are the 2 best players in the series, and then like the rest of the Celtics role players just easily outclass all the Hawks ones. And I think the big thing is like going on the road, game 3, game 4, do the Hawks like kind of turn up in one of those games? But I tend to think the Celtics are going to sweep them. So yeah, I'm predicting a lot of sweeps just so that I can be right on one of them. So
there you go. Yeah.
So
we'll edit out the parts that you got wrong.
Yeah, we'll go into after later. All right. Next series, 76ers against the Nets. I'll start this one off. I actually do think this will be a 6-game series. I think the Nets are a little frisky because they just have a lot of wings. Claxton can guard Embiid pretty well. And I'm pretty concerned about their ability to score the ball. But to be honest, I'm a little bit worried about the 76ers' ability to score the ball if Claxton is slowing down Embiid a good amount, right? Or if Embiid's in foul trouble, right? So that's kind of what I tend to think. But I think the games where the Sixers win will be like beat down games of like 30-point victories, like where McCall Bridges has like 12 points. But then like when the Nets win, it'll be like a 5-point game, So that's kind of where I think it's going to be.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I see that. I can also see a game where like the Nets just kind of go crazy from three and like Dinwiddie and Dorian
Oh, and
Finney-Smith.
Dinwiddie's just talking after the game, and
Yeah, yeah. And he's like just like shooting shots, like, yo, fuck Kyle Kuzma. And he goes like 8 for 10 from the 3-point line. And just like all the role players are having a blast. Like Ben Simmons just on the bench, just like clapping, like 12 claps per game. So I can definitely see it like at least one of those games, another game like the McHale like revenge game for him not staying with the Sixers after he got drafted. I'm with you. I actually did pick this game in 6, so I'm glad we're pretty lockstep so far in our predictions, it seems like.
Yeah. I mean, I I just think that Philly is liable to drop a few games here or there. Their upper ceiling is like really high, obviously, right? But they're against a bad team. They're more liable than most other teams. Kind of like the Warriors, to be honest. Like I think most teams in the playoffs would take the Warriors to at least 6, just because the Warriors they'll lose 2 games for no reason, kind of like the 76ers, to be honest. So yeah, moving on, we got the Cavs and the Knicks. This is underratedly one of my favorite matchups here. There's a lot of storylines between you got Donnie Mitchell. He didn't get traded to the Knicks, but the Knicks, obviously they have this rejuvenation. I think the Knicks also have a lot of guys who are going to be fun to watch in a playoff series, like a lot of role players between like Grimes and Quickly is going to be fun, and Josh Hart. Anthony, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I definitely I brought this up in a pod a few weeks ago. I think that the Knicks are going to win this in 7. I think that they are going to be able to figure out just enough to kind of take the Cavs down. I do think the Cavs might have a few wins where they win in convincing fashion. Like I could see the Cavs win game 1 and be looking great. And I probably won't abandon that pick like unless it's like looking real dire in like the second or third game, but I just think the Cavs really don't have anybody that can stop the smaller guards on New York and even some of the bigger guards too, like Josh Hart. And that's kind of been my thinking for this. And I think that if Mitchell Robinson can do enough to kind of help stem them offensively interiorly, like I think that's just going to be huge. Julius Randle, I know he's kind of one of those Kyrie guys where it's like he's on the team and he looks good. He puts up like good numbers, but like how much is that impacting the success of the team? At the same time, he is a big body and it's going to be helpful for him to be on the post against Evan Mobley and Jared Allen just to kind of like wear them down over time. So that will be something that is important for them to have, I think. So if he's hurt, then I'll have to change this probably to like Cavs and 6 or something like that, just because I do think that the Knicks can hum pretty well even without Randall. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all fair. I'm gonna probably roll with Cavs in 6 or 7. I'll just say Cavs in 7 at home in a game 7 probably. But I mean, I think that the Cavs should win this series. If I'm the Cavs, I'm kind of expecting to win this series, to be honest. But the Knicks have a lot of pieces that counter the Cavs really well. I'm just pretty skeptical about Randall and Mitchell Robinson as a front court in a playoff series. And then like the lack of depth behind them, to be honest. I know Jericho Sims is like, he's active, and you got Toppin and even like Hardenstein, I guess. But I really think Allen and Mobley are gonna eat in that series. I do share your worry though about the Cavs are not gonna be able to guard anyone on the perimeter. I don't like Evan Fournier might have a resurgence in the series. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like those guys cannot guard anyone. So that's why I think it's gonna be, dude. I'm serious. Tibbs is gonna throw out Fournier for like 20 minutes in like one game this series, like at some
dude,
point.
Derrick Rose is gonna have like game 5. Derrick Rose is gonna put up like 18 in the second half or something.
They'll still lose, but like now,
Yeah. It'll be a game that we lose too.
But like that's like my credit that I'm giving the Knicks in terms of their ability, I think, to score on the perimeter against the Cavs is why I think it'll go 7. I think talent wise, it's a pretty big disparity, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'm thinking like intangibles and just like I do always have something to think about a player that goes to a new team that's not like I don't know, like Donovan Mitchell to the Cavs, who had not made the playoffs since LeBron left. I know that they were like frisky last year. It's just like And they've been playing pretty well, but how's that cohesion going to kind of fit in terms of, and I know Brunson is new to the Knicks, but I feel like it's kind of different when a guy comes in and becomes a star with a team versus there's a star guy that comes to a team. I know that's like a small distinction, but like I feel like Brunson kind of grew into like the full Knick that we saw, even though he had like flashes of it in Dallas. So I feel like it's kind of like helped with his identity, and I feel like it's kind of helped with their chemistry. So we'll have to see. So that's why I have a slight inkling for the Knicks, but I do think that the Cavs are like on paper, they're a better team. They should win this. But I'm just going to go against it.
I think that's fair. I also think Tibbs, his coaching style of playing his guys 40 minutes a game, like it works in the playoffs, to be honest. Like that's kind of what happens anyways. So I think the adjustment also might not be that big. But I guess that's our first disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
The last series in the East that we covered. That's interesting. Now moving on to the West. We already did Nuggets. So now we got Grizzlies-Lakers. I'll start this off as the resident Lakers hater so far on this podcast. They now have more than a 0% chance to win the championship or win the West. They now have, because they got out of the play-in. That was like one of the bases of my argument, is that they need to get out of the play-in, but they did. I got Grizzlies in 5. Basically, I'm not inspired by the Lakers. I'm not inspired by their lack of perimeter shooting. And I think the Grizzlies really upgraded it with the addition of Kennard. I think the Grizzlies can just outscore the Lakers off the court if they want to, but they also have the ability to defend really well, which I honestly haven't really seen from the Lakers against a really good team. I personally think the Grizzlies are upper echelon team. I'm also happy that my take about John Morant like not getting All NBA, or I guess I'm not happy, but it came true. He's not going to get All NBA, it looks like, but I think they're going to be pissed because of that, and I think they're going to come out with a vengeance. They see this LeBron matchup, they want to eat it up. It's kind of like the Suns 2 years ago. When they played the injured Lakers in the first round, where I think they're just going to come out firing. And I don't think the Lakers can compete talent-wise, matchups-wise outside of AD. I think AD is the biggest problem, and we'll have to see from there. Like, I'm pretty confident in the Grizzlies in winning this series, to be honest.
I have the Grizzlies in 7, so I think that they'll win as well. I think that they'll win at home. I think that it's going to be one of those series for me, I feel like, where the Lakers are actually going to have a sense of command in the series for some of the time, and then they're going to flop towards the end just because they're going to be gassed, and the Grizzlies will figure them out. I think the Lakers will do enough defensively to actually kind of win some games. I think that the Lakers are going to have a series lead at one point in this, and then everybody on First Take is going to be talking about, oh, can the Lakers make a finals run, stuff like that. That's where I just don't see it. I think the Grizzlies will kind of like buckle down again and like figure it out. The Suns were down 2-1 in that series against the Lakers you were referring to, and then they came back and won in 6. So, granted, AD got hurt, so that's a huge thing. But I feel like unless LeBron and AD can consistently show that they are like the two best players on the court, like as in 1 and 2, and then Jaws 3, like then that's the only way the Lakers can win. But there's going to be too many games where Jaws either the first or the second best player in the court, and then like those positions 4 through 10 are going to be stacked with Grizzlies guys. So at that point, like the experience that LeBron has with winning a chip and like leading a chip, like a championship team, compared to where he's kind of at right now, like physically wise, I think it's getting lower. So I'm with you in that they'll win. Where I think we disagree is how many games it's going to be.
That's fair. I mean, I think game 1 will be a pretty big game because, like, for example, if the Lakers win game 1, my prediction probably changes, like Grizzlies in 7, like off the rip.
They have to, yeah.
But I tend to agree. I tend to think that, like, dude, that FedEx Forum is going to be jumping against the Lakers, like for game 1 of the playoffs. Like, also Dylan Brooks has been talking. They all love Dylan Brooks. They want to back him up, or I don't know if they all love him. They do want to back him up though. And
yeah.
All right. All right. I don't want to get behind Dylan Brooks.
Yeah.
And I think they're gonna come out, and I think they're gonna really like take it to the Lakers in like game 1. That's what I think is gonna happen. If they don't, my prediction will probably change. But I really tend to think that the Grizzlies are a contender, and a really strong contender at that.
Bro, I can see them coming out firing, just shooting. like crazy, like from the 3-point line. And the Lakers won't have anything to do about it because they just don't have that ability to shoot like the Grizzlies do. So,
Okay, John
that's
Morant. Okay, John Morant.
He's not one of their better shooters, though, right? Like, even though
it's him and Curry. It's him and Curry at the top.
Yeah. I mean, that's facts. I mean, Bane might have something to say about that too, but
yeah. Now we're switching up what type of shooters we're talking about. Next series. Quick summary. I had Grizzlies in 5, Anthony Grizzlies in 7. So it'll be Lakers in 4 probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Kings Warriors next series. Anthony, I'm gonna take the floor in this one. I'm sorry.
Sure. Take it. It's your team.
Listen up. It's gonna be Warriors in 6. All of you people who keep saying, yo, the Kings, they're nice. They're nice offensively. Their starting lineup looks good. The Warriors can't play any defense. I hear all that. Get your head out of the gutter. It's the Golden State Warriors, and the Kings are our little bros. We wrote the playbook on how the Kings play. And the no defense thing, you're going to roast the Warriors? Who's got no defense? It's the Kings. Andrew Wiggins is back. Kuminga is him. Steph Curry is them. It's like there's multiple, and it's inclusive. And guess what? Sabonis, he's not averaging 20 a game in this series. Fox, you can shoot it 15 times from 3. If you go 8 for 15 every game, De'Aaron, you win. Guess what? It's not going to happen. Warriors in 6. That's it.
All right. I hear what you're saying. I'm going to say Keegan, crazy from 3. Sabonis, 20, 10, 5. De'Aaron Fox, Mr. Jerry West, clutch player of the year, Malik Monk, Kevin Huerter. You got those boys shooting. And I will say this, because of that, I'm going to go on a huge limb here and say that the Kings in 6 games will lose to the Warriors. and they're going to show out on a couple games, and that'll be great. Yeah, I'm with you. Warriors in 6. I think it's like the biggest underdog that like the 3 seed or like maybe like I think the 3 seed has been in a first round series, which I think makes sense here. The one thing is I will say is like the Warriors do need to win one of these games on the road. But like they only need to win one of those games. So like the fact that the Warriors have such a bad road record, like it is what it is. I think that they'll be able to kind of pull it out. They better not lose a game at home because that won't help them at all. But I don't see that happening. So I'm with you. Kings lose in 6.
I also am like fairly confident that one of those games in Sacramento, like the Warriors are going to go on a 15-0 run, and that stadium is going to be like Warriors fan vibes, to be honest. I do think though, like there's going to be one game in this series, and it might even be game 1 where the Kings are going to win by like 35 because they can't miss a 3. And then we're all going to be like scared for like a little bit. But Wiggins is back. Talk about Malik Monk. I'm going to talk about Jordan Poole. I think talk about Kevin Huerter. I'm going to talk about Clay. Talk about Steph. I'm going to talk about Fox. I'm going to talk about Steph. At some point, I think you go down the line and the matchups really favor the Warriors, especially since Sabonis. Between Looney and Draymond, I'm fairly confident the scoring of Sabonis can be like pretty easily handled. Not that he scores a ton currently, but he can. We have seen in previous seasons scored like 25 a game. I just don't see that happening. And I think Fox is going to really struggle in this series, actually. It's like kind of my low-key hot take. I think GP2 and guys, like we're going to throw Wiggins at him. We might even start Draymond on Fox like we did that in the regular season. I think Fox is really going to struggle. But yeah.
I'm going to take it from a slightly different angle from where you're coming from with the big situation. I agree in that Sabonis is not much of a scorer. I think he was like 18 or 19 a game this year, which is solid. However, I actually could see the Warriors looking at Sabonis and be like, okay, you score 25 a game. You go ahead and do that. And because his big thing for me has always been his playmaking. So, and I feel like if he's looking at Draymond, who's by far their best defensive player, well, now that they got Wiggins back, that's helpful too. But like he was their defensive MVP, like you had said in the last pod. And so I could see them trying to exploit. That's where their defensive strong point is. So maybe if we can get that matchup going in a favor where Sabonis is able to make plays while Draymond's kind of guarding him, like try to exploit that matchup. I could try to see the Warriors being like, no, we're not going to let you be that facilitator from like the high or low post that you have been like all season. We're actually going to just let you try to go to work and then make this more of like a one-on-one matchup situation. And if that happens, that's going to kind of stem that offense that made them so great this whole season. And if it gets into a one-on-one situation, the Warriors are going to come up on top of that 9 times out of 10.
I agree. I also think like the thing is, I think Looney's going to start, and Looney can put up 20 to 25 minutes of very good defense on Sabonis. Looney was like, by the end of the last year's playoffs, he was like, him and Rob Williams were the only centers who could play. Like, like this is a super mobile role player, but he's a terrific defender. We saw it against Dallas last year. He gave Luka fits. We would just switch every pick and roll, and then Luka was like, what do I do now? So I think Looney is going to be super valuable, and Kings fans have been slandering him on Twitter, which is going to be awesome when he plays. Like he always plays. He has the most offensive boards in the league this year. Like, I don't know. I think Looney is going to munch in this series. Or munch is probably not a good way to put it, but rather like I think he's going to really stifle Sabonis a lot. I can just see the Kings easily like just shooting the Warriors out of a game, and the Warriors just capitulating in like the third quarter like twice. So that's kind of where I see this series going. I think when we're talking about like a team being in control, I could if the series like if the Warriors split the first 2 games, they're in control. So I think that's something we'll see.
Yeah.
So we both have Warriors in 5. Suns Clippers is the next series. I don't have any huge takes on this one. I like the Clippers' chances more than most. I think it's just because it's a good matchup. Like the Clippers match up well against the Suns. I think the Suns should win this.
I think I have Phoenix in 7. I'm with you. I think that the Clippers are going to push it. I don't know how many games you had them in. 6.
I had Clippers in 7. I had Suns in 7. Sorry,
the Suns in 7. Nick Wright made an interesting point on First Things First, where they were talking about like should the Clippers have lost one of their games so that they could have fallen to the 6 seed and the Warriors spring up to the 5 seed. Did you see that?
Well, the thing is about that is that they had a chance to manipulate it a little bit, but they would have had to really throw their last game of the season. And they were playing against, I forgot who. They were playing against another team that was throwing a game too. I think it was the Suns.
They're playing against the Suns. The Suns,
yeah. But the Suns were throwing their game already too. So it was and the Clippers needed to win to ensure that they didn't go to the play-in. But by the end of the game, they knew they weren't going to be in the play-in, and they could have just rested everyone in the 4th.
Right.
But it would have been there. They would have got the $1 million fine that the Mavericks got, to be honest. But I don't think
750, right?
Yeah. Is it 750,000? Yeah.
I think that's what I saw. Yeah. I feel you. I still think you just eat that fine and go for it, just because the point that Nick Wright made, which is interesting, is it's not like Paul George is out for the rest of the playoffs. I think he's certainly out for the first round. So it's like,
you didn't buy yourself any time.
Yeah. Right? If you have to, why wouldn't you want to face facing the Kings is a significantly easier challenge in the first round than facing the Suns. So, or even the Grizzlies. I mean, even though the Grizzlies are a really, really tough team, you still might lose to that. I think you just have a better chance than the first round of Devin Booker, Chris Paul super motivated, Aiden super motivated. They're kind of done with the Suns slander of having to deal with this the entire season, saying look how bad this team is now. KD's he's super motivated. So that's the wrong team that you want to run into in the first round when you're trying to get your guys healthy. So, but I do think that they'll push them, and I think that it's going to be a great series. I just if they had Paul George, that would have changed where this conversation would have gone.
I completely agree. If they had Paul George, I would almost want to pick the Clippers, because my biggest worry about the Suns is their depth, right? And the Clippers, they almost have too much depth where they can't figure out their rotations, but that means they'll always have another adjustment. It's not always a good adjustment, and it doesn't always work, right? But the Suns, the Suns roster, what's going to hit them. And I think that's going to catch up to them eventually, to be honest, not to spoil my playoff predictions. But I think that's going to catch up to them eventually, is this fact that they don't have any other adjustments. That they have a Kogi, and they have Campaign and CP3, and what's going on. Like you're not going to get surprised by the Suns. And I think that's going to help them a little bit, or hurt them a little bit, I should say, in this series. But dude, it's KD and it's Book and it's like them. And that's the only reason why Nick Wright, like you're saying, would even make that argument of should you have thrown the series, right? Because the Suns are, we know what they are, but they're nasty, right? So.
And to add, like, on your point of like, okay, maybe you fall into the 7 seed and you have to like be in the play-in or whatever. Who are you playing in that first game? Are you playing the Lakers?
T-Wolves, probably.
You're playing you're playing the Timberwolves. Okay. Like that's fine. That is absolutely fine. Let them play the Timberwolves. Let them play the Lakers, who they beaten 11 times in a row. Like whoever they're playing, because I think they had the tie break with the Lakers. So even if they blew that, like it just would have shoved the rest of the teams down. And I think the Pelicans weirdly would have hopped or something like that. Like it would have
it was something weird.
It was a weird thing. Like the Lakers were locked at 7. They couldn't advance. So they would have been that. So I don't know. But I think so they kind of missed on this one. Like this is one of those times where maybe you eat that fine so you have a better chance of like making to the finals. Like who cares more, a fine or
I guess, but then like you play that play-in game and then Kawhi gets hurt in the first quarter and then you're like, that's what we get for resting our guys. Like I know that's like an aggressive like example, but given their like injury-riddled team, I don't think more like intense NBA basketball is like what they need. But I do understand your point. I personally wouldn't do it, but I get your point. So Suns in 7, we both agree on that.
Yep.
And that's our first round previews. That's got through that. Now, Anthony, if you just want to run through your playoff bracket, I don't know if you're ready. If you're not, I can go. But
ready.
The only big difference after the first round that we had was the Knicks. And unless you're predicting a deep Knicks run, I think it'll be pretty even. So, yeah.
Yeah. Are we just going to do like the whole second round now?
If you want, just go through your whole thing, and then I'll go through my whole thing, and then we can review it. Because we'll probably have some differences starting now.
Yeah. So this is where I think we'll see. So 2-3 matchup. Boston, Philly. I have Boston in 6. I think they go in and they end up winning that last game on Philly's court. I just think the matchup really favors the Celtics. I like everything that I've seen in these games, even the one that we lost because Embiid played out of his mind and they won by like 5 points or something. So I feel pretty comfortable and confident with that matchup. We'll have to see like kind of how the game's developed before. Like this is where I struggle with like more detailed analysis of this kind of stuff. And like I don't even want to pretend that we're imagining this stuff as if it has happened already, because anything can happen. Injuries can happen. All these different things can get in the way. So I'm just giving a very brief thing and could be like, obviously, like we're not Nostradamus here. As for the second round, even though the Knicks do, I think, advance, I think they lose in the advance out of the first round. I think they lose to the Bucks in 6. I think they'll give them a tough couple of games, like tougher than people expect. In that I hope, just to kind of, make the Bucks work for it. But I think that the Bucks overpower them in talent. Do you want to give your 2 Eastern Conference, then we can move to the West?
Okay, yeah, let's do it. I got the Celtics over the Sixers. I'm gonna say in 5. I just think the Celtics match up super well there. Don't have much to add outside of that. It has nothing to do with like Joel Embiid, right? It's mostly of like the makeup of the Sixers, but I could see the Sixers event like pushing this to 7 or something, but I'd be pretty shocked if the Celtics lost. Bucks I have over the Cavs, which was our difference, but I actually have that in 6. I just think I know the Bucks have Drew Holiday, right? But I kind of like the idea of Mobley and Allen being annoying for Giannis to deal with. I don't know how much that's going to happen in practice, but I got Bucks in 6 there. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're pretty much in agreement that we'll have an Eastern Conference final repeat. Moving on to the West, here comes the spice from your boy. I'll go with the 1-4 matchup first. I'm going to take Denver in 7 here.
Ooh.
I'm going to go ahead and say that the Suns don't actually push past this. This is what I'm going to go back to with my point about Donovan Mitchell coming to the Cavs. I think it takes a bit of time to have players mesh together. I agree with some of the things you were saying in terms of we know what to expect from the Suns. So I think that's actually going to help a little bit with how Denver goes and plays them. I know that Denver doesn't necessarily have like world beaters on defense, but they do have a pretty relatively deep bench with I think Bruce Brown has been solid. We've seen him play pretty well. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has been a great guy on a championship team. So I could kind of see the Nuggets. I have them in 7 because I don't think that like they're going to roll over them or anything like that. But so I have them in 7. And we can get into that too. And then in my second round, I actually am going to go ahead with the Grizzlies and say that they win in 6. Now, I do not think that I prefaced this before at the beginning of our podcast. I don't think that the Grizzlies are a championship team necessarily. I just think this is a very even Western Conference. I could be completely wrong. And, I'll leave my words on this. I'm not going to die on a hill for this pick. But I think that the Grizzlies are going to win this series for a few reasons. Reason one is that the Warriors didn't take that jump that I thought that they were going to take from their young guys specifically. I think Clay has been amazing this season coming back, third player in NBA history to have 300 threes in a season. I think Steph is just as good, if not better, than he was last season. So I see no drop off from them. I think Draymond Green's still serviceable. Kuminga's coming into his own. It's helpful that Wiggins is back. He's coming back a little bit late. We'll see how that first round kind of helps him get back into gear. I think where the Grizzlies have it this year where they didn't have it last year was they took the Warriors to 6 and Ja was injured in game 2, I believe it was. So that is going to be a huge thing where a better version of Ja comes back. I think they're extremely motivated. I'm not saying that the Warriors aren't motivated either. I just think they're extremely motivated to be able to kind of push through. In this series, I just kind of feel like they have it. I could totally be argued out of this one because this is not a very strong pick that I have, but I do think that the tide is going to flip a little bit. Not saying forever. Like I think the Warriors could come back the season after and still have them. I don't think they've aged out, but something is just giving me vibes that the Grizzlies are going to go on a bit of a run here.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, let's start with that series. So I think that's the Western Conference Finals. I think whoever wins that series wins the next round, no matter who comes out of that. And I just think the momentum is going to be nuts. Even if it's the Lakers, for example, who come out of that series, and we're both wrong, the momentum from winning those series and the Warriors, for example, even getting to a Western Conference Finals, the momentum from that, I think is going to be really hard to compete with from the Nuggets and the Suns, almost no matter what happens. Because I think, for example, for the Warriors to beat the Kings pretty convincingly, like we predict, and then I personally think they'd beat the Grizzlies in 6. But if that were to happen, they'd come into the Western Conference Finals with their stuff figured out. And I would argue the same with the Grizzlies. So that's why I think that's the Western Conference Finals for me. My counter argument. So I obviously had the Warriors in 6. I think the Warriors have a legit 9-man lineup, which was one of my stronger worries and something we didn't have for this whole season. Since GP2's been back, we basically have the best defense in the NBA since the All-Star break. We're number 2 in net rating, and that's all without Wiggins, who was our second best player on a championship team a year ago. So I think if we figure it out, we actually have quite a good chance to be better than what we were last year. And Kuminga, DiVincenzo, GP2, these are a lot of really good point of attack defenders. A lot of the worries that people have about the Warriors we don't have big men, which we don't, but we have Draymond and Looney who can guard the rim, and they'll be one of them on the court at all times. And usually outside of that, we have at least 2 really good point of attack defenders between Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond, if he's not playing the big man role, etc. And I think that's something that really is tough for the Grizzlies specifically to deal with. Ja, who needs to get to the rack so often. But, when Ja gets the switch, like Poole's not playing very much that Grizzly series, for example, in my opinion. Like Ja's attacking him. But that's kind of my theory. I can't really hate on the Grizzlies pick. If Steven Adams or Brandon Clark were healthy, both of them, I would probably pick the Grizzlies.
Yeah. I mean, I feel you. I kind of like I'm just a fan of, I think where I'm at is I don't think that the Grizzlies backcourt is as far behind the Warriors as it was. I still think that there's a gap. I think the Warriors still have a better backcourt, but when you have John Morant, Tyus Jones, Desmond Bane, Luke Kennard, so you have shooting, you have playmaking. You do have Dylan Brooks, who we both think is going to be an all defensive team guy. And then I think when it comes to those bigs, we're talking about a guy that I think both of us either think should have been in consideration or will be on an all NBA team, and Jaren Jackson Jr. and is our depoy. And then you brought up last pod how well Xavier Tillman plays against AD, but like he's also been very serviceable. So I do think that kind of helps take away, at least with the Brandon Clark pick. I agree with your point earlier on about Steven Adams and like how necessary he's going to be. But I think that's going to help shore up against a weaker backcourt that the Warriors have.
Yeah, Steven Adams is out, I believe, for the whole playoffs as well.
Yeah.
So that's yeah. But I actually my sneaky theory is in a series against the Warriors, Brandon Clark's way better because he's way more switchable. But regardless, they're not going to have either of them. That's just a nerd theory that I have.
For sure.
From there, so you had those Grizzlies in 6. I have the Warriors going on the road, beating them in Memphis in 6. That series is going to be a very mental series, in my opinion. I think it's the Western Conference Finals. Nuggets Suns. I had the Nuggets in 7, just like you. I think the Nuggets, they're kind of coming into their own at a good time. They have some new perimeter defenders and defenders in general, like Peyton Watson, that I think could really be well deployed in a series against the Suns. I don't feel strongly about this pick. You know, KD and Book could average 30 each for the whole series. I just think that like CP3 is pretty exploitable. And I think 8 in against Jokic, like 8 in, I don't love that for 8 in.
Right. Yeah.
But again, not too pressed about that.
Yeah. And kind of going off your point, like I think the other aspect of this is I think if we're on the same page about the fact that the Nuggets aren't going to be as challenged like by their opponent in the first round versus the Suns are definitely going to be challenged. So it's in one way it could be helpful because they're kind of going through these challenges like early on. So they're like ready for heated battle. And at the same time, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be more difficult when you have so many bodies in the Clippers that you can just throw at the Suns over and over and over again. So if we both think that series going 7, and then we think they have to do it again in Denver, like it's just going to be like, could it wear people down? Like, could Chris Paul have an injury? Could KD have an injury? So part of this is injury, like saying that like there's always that option. I think that's why we have both of these series going 7 games. But yeah, it seems like we're on the same page about that.
Yeah, and I would be honestly very skeptical. Like if the Suns don't have one of their key players miss one game in the whole playoffs, I'd be honestly a little surprised. And even if they don't miss like a single game, they're old. Like they might just start breaking down. KD last year against the Celtics was not that good. I think we tend to forget that. I know the Celtics are a different breed than a lot of these teams, but that's kind of where I'm at. With that, Anthony, your Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals. Do you want to give us a rundown of that?
Yeah. So I'm going. Part of this argument is full homerism, of course. I think the Celtics are going to win in 7, just like they did last year. The only difference is I think they're going to win it on the Bucks home court, just like they did in Game 6 of last year. This is going to always be my big thing is I think that the Celtics have better depth. I think they have better guard play. I think that their bigs can't quite hang with the Bucks bigs, but I do think I think the Bucks big 3 of Portis and Lopez and Giannis is definitely better. So health is really contingent on this. I just don't know what the Bucks are going to do to stop the wings on the Celtics. And I just think we're so deep. We have so much shooting. So this is going to be dependent on a few things. 1, health. Can the Celtics be healthy for this matchup, like throughout the entire series? 2, it's going to be on the 3 ball. If we're missing threes, it's really tough for us to win. Not saying that we can't win, but we have to be able to actually, because we are a better 3-point shooting team than the Bucks, so that's how we're going to have to beat them if we beat them. I felt pretty good about our matchup that we played recently. It's 1 game, so I think the Bucks are going to beat us by 30 in a game, and I think we're going to beat the Bucks by 30 in a game. So that doesn't say everything. And the final thing is, this is what I've been thinking since June of last season, is Jason Tatum. As a Celtics fan watching the Celtics, the thing that slightly frustrated me was that they actually peaked in late March. They didn't peak in the playoffs. it's a slight nuance. I know that they beat the Nets. However, that was a closer series than I think people give it credit for. And against the Bucks, even though they were able to win those games, there were some frustrating kind of what are you doing? And then against the Heat, you were kind of starting to see the wheels fall off a little bit. And then by the time we faced the Warriors, you guys were so tuned up, so ready to go that even though on paper maybe the Celtics had more talent, that was where Tatum was just exhausted. And like we kind of shot ourselves in the foot a few times. And like I kept thinking like, oh, if only we were that team in like late March that was like put here where the offense is just humming and we can't stop. So the big thing for me is Tatum. Like, can Tatum go back again and say to Giannis, like, yes, I am that guy. I am here. I'm going to be, at least for a few of these games, the best player on the court. So I think those three factors. I think if Tatum can be the best player on the court for at least a few games, I think the depth that the Celtics have, and I think 3-point shooting, I'm going to give it to the Celtics in 7. There's a lot of homerism going on here too. So like, I'm not going to die on this hill.
No, I mean, I think that's fair. I have the Bucks in 7. I don't feel strongly about it. I just think Giannis might have like an all-time series. Like that's kind of, I think
he did last year against us.
Yeah, but I do think like he might even go harder, to be honest. Yeah. Like I think he's on a mission. I don't have too much nuance behind my take against the Celtics and the Bucks because I think both teams are like fantastic. And I do think there'll probably be an injury on one of those sides by then that kind of affects the series in some way. I do think though that something that is important to remember is that the Celtics had a crazy run to the finals, like one of the harder runs that I can remember. And then of course they lose the Warriors in 6, but at this point, I mean, the Celtics will have played the Hawks and then the Sixers, which the Sixers is a tough matchup, but like that could really be a tune-up series like you're talking about. So, yeah, I mean, I can't hate on that take. Did you mention your Western Conference Finals take?
No. I'll give that to you first.
Or do you want to go?
Oh, sure. So yeah, I have Denver and Memphis. You have Denver and Golden State. I feel like this is the year where the Nuggets are actually kind of going to go over the finish line, at least making it to the finals. I feel like it's like weird. They've just kind of been like shuffled out of this conversation of like which teams can make the NBA finals. They're always kind of put in that list, but I feel like there are other teams that are consistently before them. I do not feel like they're the same kind of fraud Jazz teams that we saw that were the number 1 seed. Some of these number 1 seeds that in the West that like looked kind of good and then they just kind of weren't able to hang, sort of like a Portland too. So I do think this is kind of where they get over the hump. I think maybe this is where the Grizzlies, their youth kind of catches up to them. I think Jokic just offensively is going to be so much of a different beast than they've had to have faced so far in the playoffs. Like nobody's like that on the Lakers, even though AD is amazing, but nobody's like that. So I don't know necessarily how they're going to stop him and that offense from flowing and humming. So yeah, but again, like this is going to be a close one. So I have them in 6 winning.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty fair. I know I said the Warriors, Grizzlies. I think that's a Western Conference Finals, but I do think should the Grizzlies win and the Nuggets win and face each other in the Western Conference Finals, I definitely think it favors the Nuggets a little bit. Or I still would probably pick the Grizzlies, but I think the Nuggets would have a pretty good chance in that series. It'd be pretty close to 50-50. I think that's a series where the big man depth of the Grizzlies and lack thereof because of injuries would really catch up to them. I mean, I think that's a fair take. I think the matchup is just a tough one for the Grizzlies. And I do think the Nuggets have been shuffled back in the discussion. Even while they were resting Jokic, they didn't look terrible. And it kind of gave them a chance to play a lot of role players. Jamal Murray in the playoffs offensively, a little bit worried about him. MPJ, I could say the same thing. But if MPJ is off the court, do you have enough scoring? Do you have enough scoring versatility? And I do really like KCP, I think is very good, very slept on player. But I don't think Aaron Gordon is as good as people might think he is. And I'm really worried about their defense, basically. That's my big thing. I think against the Grizzlies, I think you can get away with not playing that much defense a little bit more than some other teams, particularly like the Warriors. Like if you don't play defense against the Warriors, Clay is going to drop 30 in a quarter. So that's kind of my take on your take, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel
yeah,
that for sure. Real quick, the other thing I was going to say is like we have seen the Nuggets beat a team that was really deep in a lot of different areas in the Clippers, who kind of were pronounced as this great defensive team and had like two of the top 15 players in the NBA. I get it was the bubble. However, I think if you go into the bubble, you're there. So if you're going to win, you're going to win. If you're going to lose, you're going to lose the same conditions.
yeah,
So they've proven that they can beat teams that on paper might look like they have more challenge. I will say this. I'm with you on the matchup aspect of it. Just because I think that the Grizzlies could beat the Warriors does not mean that I think that the Nuggets could beat the Warriors if they faced each other.
I
So
agree.
I think that might be a different story. So I'm kind of yeah. So but because I don't think they're going to play them, I think the Nuggets will advance.
Yeah, no, and I agree. As the resident Warriors fan, the team I feel most scared about is the Grizzlies by far. Suns a little bit after that. But like the Nuggets, I mean, we saw them last year, and you basically just throw Looney and Draymond constantly onto Jokic, and you kind of just figure it out with the rest of the perimeter guys. The Nuggets guys who don't play defense and play a lot of offense are probably worse than the Warriors equivalent of that. And the
Right.
Warriors 3-and-D guys between Wiggins, GP2, and all that are probably better than the Nuggets 3-and-D guys.
Mhm.
But that said, as if you were picking the Grizzlies against the Warriors, which I think is a fine take, it makes sense to pick the Nuggets here. I now for my Western Conference Finals, I have the Nuggets and the Warriors, and I have the Warriors in 6. For all those reasons I outlined. I also there is something a little bit weird. The Warriors, when they play at altitude, especially when they're a little older, it has looked a little bit weirder. So I'm a little concerned about the Nuggets' home field advantage there. But dude, if we make a Western Conference Finals, Chase Center is going to be electric. The stadium is going to be popping. Just like your point about peaking, I think the Warriors are peaking, starting to peak at the perfect time, and they're adding Wiggins. If they make it to a Western Conference Finals, they're going to be shooting on all cylinders. Hopefully, I guess. Like, I don't know how else they would make it. But that's kind of where I'm at. So for my finals, I have Bucks against Warriors. For your finals, you have Celtics against Nuggets. Surprise, surprise. We both picked the teams that we are fans of. So for some elite, non-biased basketball discussion, you can always check out our podcast, I guess. So
We talk about the NBA.
yeah, exactly. I'll go first on this one actually.
Yeah.
I think the Bucks would slap around the Warriors in 6. I just don't like Giannis as much as I like to think Draymond and Looney could guard, Jokic and those guys. I think Giannis is like an athletic specimen that, Looney and Draymond are not. Drew, I think, caused a lot of problems. If Middleton, if he's back and he's playing well, that caused a lot of problems. Lopez being good defensively and also being able to shoot threes. That's like annoying. I think Lopez, you wouldn't see too much of him in a playoff series against the Warriors because he can't move that well on defense. But yeah, I just don't love the idea of Giannis scoring 50 a game on us in the finals because he'll do it if he has to.
Hit me with I'll give my series prediction on what would happen if your thing happened too. But first I want to hear from you. So what do you see as the legacy for everybody involved in the outcome of this series?
Giannis, we start talking about Giannis on like some top 15 stuff. He made his own team, won 2 MVPs, 2 finals, defensive player of the year, 2 MVPs, right? I'm not tweaking about that. Yeah, by far the best player on 2 championship teams. And this season is an ultra competitive year, in my opinion. So it's even more impressive. But he also could not go, and now we're having a totally different discussion, right? So that's one thing. I think the Warriors, you make the finals, everyone gets re-signed. You chalk this year up to this was a crazy year. We had a lot of injuries. Our key players missed like 2 of our starting group / like the top playing bench players. We missed like 200 games basically in total. We had the punch at the beginning of the season. If we can make a finals, if we lose, so be it. But I wouldn't count us out. You know what I'm saying? I hope that would also mean Draymond gets a contract going into free agency is my hope. My worry is like if we get first rounded by the Kings, I don't know if Draymond's still here next year, and Draymond's had his best season in years. If we beat the Bucks, though, Steph Curry's got to be top 3 all time. So yeah,
it's kind of crazy that like the West is such that saying we could lose in the first round or we could win the finals is like something you can kind of say with like certainty. Like whereas like in the East, like I can't say with certainty that the Celtics can lose like in the first round. Like I just can't say that. So it's a testament to where like the league is at right now, I think.
Absolutely. And I think it's a testament to whoever makes it out of either conference, because even in the East, if you make it out the conference, you're beating, Celtics or the 76, like these juggernaut teams, arguably the 3 best teams in the regular season. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Can I give my take on yours really quick?
Yeah.
So you had actually, wait, I'll let you go first. My bad. I'll let you go first.
Sure. So I have Celtics and I have the Nuggets. I think the Celtics are going to win this one in 6. I just think the matchup here is so in the Celtics' favor. I listened to a podcast, a clip on Twitter, so take this with a grain of salt. But the guy on it, and I trust that he's done his research, said that he was studying every top 10 teams, like what their style of play is and how well they play against other top 10 teams. So the Celtics apparently are number 1 top 10 in defense and in offense against other top 10 teams. This is where I see the matchups really, really helping the Celtics because they do have the bigs that can kind of help to slow Jokic down, and we're switchable and we can shoot. I think this is a way easier matchup than against the Bucks. I think the drop off in talent from Jokic to the next guy compared to like the Bucks with like Giannis to the next guy is so much further down. So I think it's way easier for Tatum to I don't know who is going to stop the Celtics like wings like for the Nuggets. And don't get me wrong, I get that I said that for the Suns and I gave some credit to those guys there, but I do think that the combination of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum combined with all this guard pressure consistently, that's just something that the Suns don't have to the same extent. And I think the Celtics are just so hungry. If they get to the finals and they see that they have the Nuggets, like I think they're going to go, oh my Lord, like thank goodness, like we have this opportunity. If they have to go up against the Warriors, I don't think the Celtics are going to be really happy about it. I know I'm not going to be happy about it. Again, I think on paper, the Celtics could still win that. But I think that those teams are kind of looking at each other like, okay, here we are again. What's going to happen? So I think it's just easier if I think the matchup works really well. I think the Celtics are really motivated. They want to get there. I'm going to take Celtics in 6 if that happens.
Yeah, I'll go a step further. I think the Celtics would beat the Nuggets in 5. I think the matchup is fantastic. Horford, Rob Will, whoever you want on Jokic, and figure the rest out later. You had. I think your analysis was good there. I would be very happy if the Warriors played the Celtics in the finals again. I would, as a Warriors fan, I would prefer to not play the Bucks. And also, I think if the Warriors got to the finals, our play style would probably be a play style that's pretty countering of the Celtics with all of our wing defenders, to be honest. That is something that we do have. So, yeah. But, for example, I do have a question. Should the Grizzlies make a finals, would you low-key give the Grizzlies a better shot to beat the Celtics than the Nuggets?
A better shot. I still don't think that they would. I think that the teams that are most likely, to beat. I think that the only team that I'm really scared of in the West for us is the Warriors. So I think maybe they'd give us a bigger run, but I feel like the most recent times we faced up against the Grizzlies in the regular season, I just distinctly remember these games. The Celtics have been in control and tend to win most of those games, in a relatively fair fashion. It's not like routes or anything, but they just haven't really been a team that struck fear into my heart, even though I know that Ja is an amazing. I get that they're a great team. Just to me as a fan watching them play, they don't strike fear into my heart in terms of how they play against us.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. I mean, I think that's fair. I wouldn't pick. I think the only way The only way the West, I think, wins a championship, given the injuries and stuff that we've seen so far, obviously this could change. I really think it would have to be like a Warriors beating the Celtics in the finals.
Yeah.
I think the Suns, if they like happen to just be popping off the whole time, like they would have a chance. But I think we should talk a little bit more about the Suns before we move on from this whole discussion. Obviously, we gave you our brackets. I had Bucks over Warriors in 6. Tony had Celtics over Nuggets in 6. But I do think we should talk about the Suns. They're the one of the favorites in all betting markets and whatnot. My issue with them, again, their top 3 players are very good. I don't know how good CP3 still is, especially in a playoff scenario, to be quite honest. And then outside of that, it's like, well, we got Campaign and we got who else? I don't know. Like I obviously do know they've got a Kogi and guys like that, right? But and TJ Warren. But it's like we're talking about TJ Warren still. It's 2023. Like
like Terrence Ross.
Yeah. And Terrence Ross has not looked good at certain points.
Like yeah. I mean, we talked about this in one of the first pods about which team can least afford an injury to like one of their like top 4 guys or whatever. And I think it is the Suns. Like, I think Chris Paul will benefit from having Kevin Durant. Obviously, this is just going to free up a lot of space for him, and he's going to be able to kind of. I think they just will work. They work so well together, and they're undefeated with KD on the court. But I don't necessarily see. I feel like that's the one concern is like one of these wheels could fall off on this thing. And like they do need all 4 of those guys to be able to play at a good level. And Chris Paul needs to be able to play like he did in 2021 before the Bucks series. So like when he played in the Western Conference Finals and was fantastic. So if he can get some of that back, and I think he has that ability based off of like all the attention that those teams are going to be throwing at Kevin Durant. Like, for example, I don't think that the Clippers necessarily have an amazing defensive point guard that's going to slow Chris Paul down. So, like, that's something that can kind of help tune him up. And then again, same question for the Nuggets. Like, they don't necessarily have like a stalwart defensive point guard. So can that help while all the attention is on other teams? Yeah, I think so. But like you're saying, it needs to go well for him to be able to play well. Yeah. And that's okay that's where he's at in his career. And we should give him his flowers if he can play well. So
no, I mean, I think that's all fair, but that's kind of the hesitancy. So yeah. I think that's what it comes down to. Is there anything else you wanted to cover? I think we did the first round, we did the plans, we did our playoff bracket predictions. Is there anything I'm forgetting that we covered that we need to cover?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we kind of have it. Obviously, it'll be way easier to give more, takes with gusto and fervor later in the rounds as we know what's happening. Because for now we're talking hypotheticals, but I feel like for now, like both of our positions are pretty like understandable, and there's nothing like out that either of us have said that out of pocket. So
yeah, I agree. I don't think any of us are going out on a limb here that much. But to be honest, I think like in the West, you can kind of pick whoever. You're not really going out on a limb. And in the East, it's kind of the Bucks or the Celtics, in our opinion.
Yeah.
We'll see. In before the Bulls win a chip coming out of the play-in. So
yeah, literally. Watch the Sixers just roll over everyone.
With that, I guess we'll see you guys next week for real. I know last time. What?
Will, however, Max, you have a quiz you need to answer.
Oh, I did forget about this. I do have a quiz.
You do have a quiz. Okay, so this is how the format is going to work. I'm going to let you pick your selection first. You don't have any stats up, do you? If you have any stats on your tabs, okay, cool. So this is going to be can you guess the top 5 players for this NBA season in these different categories? And they're the easiest categories. They're the counting stats. They're points, rebounds, and assists. Can you name who they were? This is per game, not total. I will let you know right now that of all these 15 players, right, the top 5 in each of these 3 categories, I do not believe that any of them have missed significant amount of time, as in like there's no, because ESPN has now posted, for example, Kevin Durant only played 47 games. He's on the list for ESPN now that the season is finished.
Is this total points or per game though? So if
per game, this is per game.
Per game. Okay.
So keep that in mind. And because of that, just making sure, I believe it will be the least number of games that any of these players have played is going to be 56. So it's not going to be anybody that was like barely on the court and like
Okay.
showed up. So
This
I'm going
season,
to
5 players, 5 major counting stats.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to give you 2 misses allowed per category, and then
Okay.
1 bonus miss. So we'll see how you do.
I think so. I think steals and rebounds are probably going to be the hardest.
Oh no, just the top 3. Just points, rebounds, assists.
Bless.
Don't worry. Yeah. No, yeah.
Okay. Points per game. Embiid.
Yep.
Luka.
Yep.
Dame.
Yep.
Shea.
Yep.
I don't know who the 5th is. I feel like it's a 30 a game scorer, but it might be Steph. In which case I'm a bad fan. Let's just say Giannis.
Ding, 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 ding. Congratulations. 5-4-5 on the first round for Max OJ. Okay, I will give you 1 extra miss allotted for your either rebounds or assists. Who do you want as an allowed miss?
Rebounds for sure.
Okay. You're allowed to have 3 misses on your rebounds.
Okay, let's do rebounds. So bonus.
Yes.
This is terrible. Gobert.
Yes.
I want to say Steven Adams. Oh, he probably didn't play the games, dude. I'm tweaking. Or I might just be totally.
No, he played. They count him for games, but he.
So I'm just totally wrong. Okay, that's good to know.
He is though.
Anthony Davis.
Wait, where is Steven? Oh, okay. To be fair though, you were right on the line. Like with Steven Adams, he was like a 0.1 rebound away. So that's just tough. Sorry, who was your next pick?
Anthony Davis.
Ding ding ding.
Jokic.
Yes, sir.
I was a little nervous by that. That's 4.
That's 4. You have 1 more to go.
Giannis.
Yes, correct.
Dude, I'm wasting my bonus miss, dude. That sucks.
That's crazy. All right. Now you are down to assists per game.
I should have used it for this now in retrospect. This one's gonna be tough.
Yep. 2 misses, but I feel like
CP3.
CP3's on the list.
Garland. He's not even gonna be close to. I'm gonna get clowned for that.
Let's see. Garland.
He's gonna have like 5 too. I'm tweaking.
No. I mean, you weren't that far off. He averaged just under 8 a game. So, he's top 10. He's top 10. Not a terrible pick.
Not Draymond. Not Lillard. Jokic. I don't know. I'm tweaking. Jokic, Doncic. What? Wow, I'm shocked.
I'll give you that bonus just because you've been flying through the first 2.
Okay. So I got 3 more. I gotta go.
Don't overthink these guys. None of these are like overthinkers, I'd say. Like, yeah.
8 assists though. Like whoever's on this is average at least 8.
I'll give you a hint, and this won't really help you too much. You have named Chris. Yep. So you've now named the number 1 with Harden, the number 4 with Jokic, and the number 5 with Paul. The other 2 guys also average over 10.
That's kind of good to know. Trey
is on there. You got 1 more.
Kristaps Porzingis. No. Imagine. 10 assists. Oh, Halliburton.
Ding, 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 ding. Woo-hoo. There we go. That was pretty good.
God, dude, I'm a bot for picking Garland. Oh my God. I actually have 0 brain cells.
Dude, I'll say that was impressive for you to have picked the 6th rebounder, the 10th assist guy, and then with Doncic. No, you know what? I'm not even going to say that because even though I'm not counting total games, they're counting Skylar Mays, who played 6 games for the Blazers when they shut everybody down, and LaMelo Ball played 36 games. So we take those 2 out. You have the 8th in Garland and the 7th in Luka. So,
Okay, pretty good.
Not bad.
Draymond's top 10.
Is Draymond top 10? No, actually.
I just made it up. I was
damn.
He's like 6.7 assists, something like that.
Yeah, just over 6.8. So interesting.
Our point guard. Well, I'm pretty happy with that performance.
That was pretty good, man.
I'm pretty good with that. Well, hope you guys enjoyed that quiz. Pretty good ball knowledge. He knows who.
Baby.
Well, we'll do more historic quizzes in the future, in the off season and whatnot, because that's our bread and butter. We'll do that. But Anthony, if there's nothing else you want to talk about, I can throw it over to you.
Thanks for listening to another fantastic pod, guys, and we'll be here spitting hoops.
See y'all next week.
Peace. Dang.